Hey, this is Dan Fredenberg here for FIGGERRIDOUT.com. Today we're getting to know Daryl Brooks and his partner, Kevin Hackbart. And how long have you been in real estate, Daryl?
Well, in the multifamily world, we're relatively new. I mean, we've been in here about a year now, but single family prior to that, quite a bit. And, Kevin, he can speak to his experience in it, but we started Value Add Partners about a year ago today.
Wow, good stuff. Good stuff. And Kevin, how about you?
So I was in the single family, started out in single family, then I got into multifamily construction about 7 years ago, 7 to 10 years ago. I've been in construction about 15 years, but I got into multifamily construction, and then it just morphed into, why are we doing the construction? Why don't we do this ourselves? So that's where it ended up at.
Right. That makes sense. And for those of you in the audience, I know Daryl from our multifamily real estate circle, and the two of you together. I don't know how many more people you have on staff, but you guys operate Value Add Partners. And for the audience here, the term value add means that the property will be upgraded or fixed immediately after purchase. And part of that means making it look nicer than before you bought it. Daryl, you seem like a nice guy. We haven't really been formally acquainted before this interview, but I looked you up last night. I saw you were in the Navy and you toured. Is that the same term in the Navy? Do you say that you tour?
Yeah, you serve aboard or whatever, I was on a ballistic missile submarine for several years, and then was stationed at Naval Hospital out in Oakland, California. So I lived in the Bay Area for a while. It was still one of my favorite parts of the country. It's crying shame right now. It's all on fire, but yeah.
So you stayed mostly in America. Did you get to see much of the world, or?
We had one chance for a port call. First of all, most countries don't want ballistic missile submarines anywhere near them. So getting a port call on a submarine is pretty rare. And we were actually headed over to Barbados. We were going to get one, and that's when Reagan decided to go rescue the people out of Barbados. Oh, we were going to Barbados. He was rescuing the people out of Grenada, so it's a neighboring island. So they were like, "Yeah, we're going to get you out of there." Just sent us back early. So it was interesting. But you got some swim calls out in the middle of the ocean. It's pretty cool. But you don't get to see much. It's not like the regular Navy. You don't get to see much of the world. It's pretty much haze, gray, and underway. So
that makes sense. But I've seen some of the walkthroughs that you shared in the group, and a few things stood out to me. First is because the show is really about it's for people who are starting from zero, or they just want to get their sea legs, I suppose you could say, right? And now the first thing that I think that people getting into real estate don't really realize is what I call the visual aspect to real estate investment. Most people, I think they just see four walls and some appliances. And I've seen enough real estate to realize that rehabbing and renovating, it's a bit like being a chef. See, most men, they don't spend any time learning how to plate a dish, which is just putting the food on the plate so that it looks nice. But would you say that making a property look nice, would you say it's something that that came with time to you guys and you just got better and better at it? Or were you always passionate about your space from a young age?
Well, I've got over 100 million square foot of building and renovation under me. And, I've done here in Detroit just about anything, you can think of. I've converted old hotels into condominiums. We've done ground up construction. And so the thing that always stands out about it with that, it depends on the area you're in. It depends on, what the likes are in that. There's things that trend nationally, but there's also things that trend, kind of regionally, I would say. But we're big fans of, our biggest thing when you're talking about vision is the curb appeal to the property. You can have the best looking units on the inside, but if you don't make the outside look, like bang, where somebody, when they pull in, they're like, yeah, I want to live here. It's all for naught, because it's tough to get them in the units, and so that's where we always start. We always start with the exterior, the curb appeal. We try to make that thing just as sweet as we can, get all the lawns edged up around all the concrete curbs, sidewalks, things like that, rip out old shrubs, because many of the properties you go into, there's these shrubbery there. Yeah, you can trim it up, but it's usually so far gone, it's not salvageable. So you're better off, jerking that and coming up with some other type of a landscape design you know, for around the building, something that's a little bit more maintenance friendly. You don't want stuff that you're constantly having to trim and manage and stuff like that. Get the canopies on the trees raised up, you know, and one of the really big things is parking lots. You know, resealing and striping a lot is not super expensive, and it just adds so much to that property, you know, when people first start to pull in. And, you know, if you've got one that has a lot of down units in it, you know, it's going to take a while to fill that up. You need every kind of tool in your toolbox that you can to make people want to come there, you know. So we focus on the outside first, but the inside we look at, it's kind of like we look at the area, you know. I've always said we want to be the best apartment around, but not 10,000 times better. We want to be just a little bit better, you know. So if the standard in the area is, you know, laminate countertops, I mean, there's nothing wrong with going with that, but one of the things that might set you apart is going with a hard surface counter. You know, we see a lot of carpet in apartments, and carpet is a nightmare, you know, for landlords, for a lot of different reasons. I don't care what brand you buy, the padding you put down, whatever. Usually there's traffic areas and those just get absolutely destroyed. And so, you know, you get a couple of years out of it before it looks so bad. And then not only that, just, you know, there's just so many other things going on with that. You know, if there's issues with bugs, if you have carpet in there, it's so much harder to, you know, to tackle that. So we typically go with a vinyl plank flooring, but, you know, on some of the higher end stuff, we're not opposed to, you know, using tile in certain areas, kitchens, bathrooms, you know, things along that line. And we try to standardize everything we do. So if you walked into an apartment we had in Texas, or you walked into one we had in Illinois, once you walked inside, you really wouldn't know a big difference because the units would be the same. That goes toward reducing your maintenance costs, because if you have one, you know, kitchen sink cartridge for your faucet, because that's what goes bad. The faucet never goes bad, it's the cartridge that goes bad. So you have one, but you're using it everywhere. Well, then you only got to stock one or two of those in your maintenance room. And if your maintenance guy, if they have a problem, boom, they go in, they swap it out, it's done. Same thing with like shower valves, sink valves, just everything. Standardize everything, and it really reduces. Most of the properties, when we go in there, you look at their maintenance shed, and it's a disaster. I mean, they've got all kinds of different parts and pieces, and you walk in the unit, you got this here, that there. It's just you know, there's just no rhyme or reason to it. So we try to streamline the units, and we're looking always at the maintenance, because you know, if you save $1 in maintenance, it's a real dollar. But if I raise the rent by $1, I'm only getting 50 cents of that dollar, or, you know, depending on what my operating expenses are, somewhere around there. So reducing your operating expenses, especially on the maintenance side, is one of the keys when we go in to look at these.
Right. And on the off chance that we've got any mathematicians watching right now, the easy way to explain that to them is that the valuation of the property, the net operating income, it works on the inverse of the cap rate. So as soon as you're dealing with the inverse of a percentage of a decimal, that, like, you know, like it gets humongous super duper easily, just how the math goes. But Kevin, what's the role? Which hats do each of you guys wear in your organization?
We actually wear many hats, actually. Being the fact that we are about a year in, we're both kind of we're both doing even sometimes double duty. You know, generally right now, I'm taking care of all the back office stuff, taking care of all the systems and processes and things like that. In addition to, we have a project going on in Rockport, Texas. So I'm also getting that kicked off and getting that running, and being the fact that it's generally in my backyard. Daryl is basically the one on the online. You know, Daryl takes care of all the social media. He takes care of all of he's the face of the company, you know. He's the one that puts us out there. You know, we both try to get on things like these as much as we can, but the back office stuff has to be taken care of, and setting all the processes and systems. So, but Daryl was just out here last week, and we were walking all of this stuff, and so he'll be out here in 2 weeks to continue helping manage this project down here. So we wear a lot of different hats. So we're still working on our actual roles of responsibilities, if you will, but that's where we are right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I got to admit, the reason why I asked is because in my outline here of my different questions, I actually wrote it before I saw that you served in the Navy there, Daryl. So I was kind of walking around, it's like, okay, there's a joke hiding in here, and I don't want to reveal it too quickly. And I was saying, like, I know that when I was talking about, plating a dish and the things that don't occur to many people, that was my gentle way of saying that, like, did you always like making things look nice, Daryl? Like it doesn't sound as friendly when you say it. It's like, oh yeah, so you like to make things pretty. Because I know where I grew up, if I turned around to other guys and I was like, you know what, we got to do something about those curtains. Those curtains, they're not going to work at all. It's like, oh, you got a problem with the curtains? And like that I'd never live that down. I'd never live that down.
Right. And we've had our one argument we've ever had was about the placement of a refrigerator. Like he was like, let's put it here. I was like, why don't we put it in the middle of the room? It was just one of those arguments.
Why don't we put it in the bathroom?
And then, that was like our official argument that we've had. And I was a fireman for 20 years. So we both have a militaristic, background. So it's, but we've never had any conflicts. We finish each other's sentences. Everything is good. But that one refrigerator thing was the one thing that we got onto each other about.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really even that angry about it. He was like, "Oh, you were so mad," and I was like,
yeah, and no pictures, no proof, right?
Right, exactly. I don't remember a thing.
Yeah, good stuff. So this show focuses on attention to detail as a tool for building your business or career when you don't know anyone to help you out. But just for the people who want to get into real estate and they're complete slobs in their home life, do you think that it's an important part of real estate investment to make things look nicer, and can it be learned? That's I think the most important question I have for you guys. Making things look nicer.
I think even in anything that we do, we try to make sure that it gives a certain projection of cleanliness, and from our social media to our print media, and our curb appeal on our properties. And like Daryl was saying earlier, you could have bales of hay inside and have the outside looking beautiful, and people would want to go inside, So definitely attention to detail is huge. And I think it can be learned. And I think for people that are starting out, it will take one or two times for maybe them to figure out, like, oh, maybe I don't need to do this, or maybe I don't need to do that. And then they'll see somebody else down the street have a house for sale that's immaculate on the outside, and they'll get all the people, So I definitely think it's something that can be learned. I definitely think that it's something that needs to be done. And I definitely think that if they go to area meetups or anything like that and talk to other investors, they would all say the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of our slogans is kind of like, we take turds and polish them into diamonds. So, that's kind of what we do. We look for those ugly properties like that. And, the situation what Kevin was saying too is what people getting started have to understand is this is a team type sport. You can be a solopreneur and you can own 100% of stuff, but you can't scale that way unless you just got a massive bank account, or you got a rich uncle or something. And even that is hard. You need to partner up with people. So what we try to do is we partner with people in areas that we're weak. We look for people that are strong in those areas. We try to surround ourselves with the very best people that we can find, because Kevin's very good at this presentation of he's very particular about, how our stuff is presented to people, whether it be, the offerings that we're making and things like that. And, I value that drastically because it puts a real professional polish on us and stuff like that. And, it's just important. And then there's other things that I have that he doesn't have. And then, we have our attorneys that are part of our team. We have our accountants part of our team. When I say part of our team, they're not just hired hands. They're part of our team. They actually are, part of our team. They get part of our deals. And, you got to get out of that solopreneur mindset. That's what you really need to do. I mean, if you want to take down a couple smalls on your own, that's fine, kind of get your feet wet. But if you really want to scale this and build it into something, it's near impossible to do it on your own. There's very, very few people that have done it. And, just like I said, just logistically, just trying to get to these different spaces. And that's one of the things Kevin didn't mention about himself, is Kevin currently operates in 37 different states here, you know, and he's got contacts all over the states. So, you know, we're able to pull people in from different places. But another resource, just real quick, and I know you got some other questions, but don't be afraid to go to like a Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore store. They can help you out a lot with like combining colors and things like this. If it's not something that's, you know, I tell my wife, all my taste is in my mouth. So, you know, it's one of those deals where it's like, I need somebody to kind of put that color palette together, you know? So it's like, it's awesome, you know, and don't be afraid to lean on people and ask questions, you know. They're chomping at the bit to help you. You just gotta know where to go to ask, you know, so.
Yeah, and from a design standpoint, I was like that. I came from tech, right? So I do all my real estate deals via collaborativeinterests.com, and I frequently mention that we're always looking for apartment complexes, and we have experienced teams such as yours to execute what we call the boots on the ground part of stabilizing a property. Now, anyone in the real estate investing business is buying and selling at some point. But Daryl, I understand that, so you said that you got into it from the construction side, from single family, and you started doing deals. But can you give a little bit more background in your specialization?
Yeah, so when I was 13 years old, my parents, truck driver and bus driver from Wayne, Michigan, a small little town, they decided to step out and start buying some rental houses. So my dad had grown up on his aunt and uncle's farm in the summer, so he became kind of a handy guy, and so that's what they started doing. Was they started buying these HUD homes for $500, $1,000 back then, and you know, they'd go throw 5, 6, 7 grand into them. We put roofs on them, whatever it needed. My dad's mentality was, I don't want phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, so we replaced the hot water heater, we replaced the furnace, you know, we upgraded the electric. So they had about 24 houses like that, and eventually he went on to retire at 52 years old. He's still with me today. He lives with me today. He's 87. And he's, you know, he's been retired longer than he worked. And that was one of his goals in life, was I want to be retired for longer than I work. And they had 24 of them. They put them on land contracts and they sold them to people that weren't able to get bank financing. So they did the owner finance, basically. And in Michigan at the time, the law was they could charge 11% interest on these contracts. So
Right.
The areas they were buying in weren't, you know, like Bloomfield Hills or something real flashy, but you know, they were only paying $5,000 for these houses. They were selling them for like $60K, you know, on a land contract, 30-year land contract at 11%. So at 11%, your money doubles every 7 years, just shy. It's like 6.8 or something like that. And anyways, the one thing that they didn't know was they didn't know to put some clause in there that they had the right, or they had the option to match any rate from the bank. So as money got cheap, people refinanced out and they paid them off. And my folks were looking at it as an income stream, and they did very well for themselves. It's a lot of money to be retired for 34 years. And anyways, long story short, you know, that's one of those little things that I learned from them was that you need to watch the verbiage you put in these contracts, because had those contracts paid out over the time, I mean, you're talking millions of dollars they lost out on just 24 rentals, you know. Eventually I got into the new construction because, you know, I thought that's where the money was, and boy, was I wrong. So
That's where the overhead is, right?
Yeah, no kidding. So, you know, I ran one of the largest framing companies in the state of Michigan. We had 300 rough carpenters, 26 trim carpenters there, and we built everything under the sun, light tech deals, commercial build outs, I mean, you name it. So we were roughing and trimming about 7.5 million square feet a year. And it was just a great group of people. And the economy in 2006 was when it hit Michigan. Everyone says 2008, but in 2006 is when we started to feel it here in Michigan. And by 2010, it was getting real sketchy. It was basically, we were down from, you know, like 340 employees down to 2, myself and the trim superintendent.
Yeah.
So they were basically like, hey man, you know, you guys either got to drum up some work or it's hasta la vista. So anyways, long story short, 2012, I started a framing company, and we started on our own. And it's been going real well since then. The pandemic's had a massive effect on it. Lumber prices right now are absolutely screwing the whole industry. Forming, and like Kevin says all the time, you know, every property has a life cycle, you know, and sometimes it makes sense to sell it. But, you know, if a property's cash flowing, it's managed correctly in that, you know, I told you I worked for one of the guys, he's the 7th largest owner of apartments in the country. They don't do it. I mean, they sell some of their stuff, but it's not often.
Right.
You know, they build their own stuff, they manage their own stuff and things like that. But I mean, just here in Michigan, they probably got, God, it's got to be 15, 20,000 units just in Michigan alone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's massive.
that's how you build that legacy. You know, the reason Kevin and I get into this, you know, people always talk about what's your why, you know, and we both busted our humps our whole life, you know, physical, hard jobs, firefighter, carpenter, contractor. And we both have children, and I have grandkids right now, very young grandkids. And that was one of the things that Tim preached about, was creating a legacy, you know, something that you can leave behind. And, you know, we both are bringing our kids into these, you know, into this operation. And our hope is that they'll see the value in it and want to continue on with it. I mean, if they want to go be a ballerina, so be it, man. Go be a ballerina for a while, man. But this is always going to be here for you, you know, because we're going to create something that's going to be lasting and something that's there, that's tangible, that, you know, it makes life easier. That's all I'll say. Is it makes life easier with that passive income? You know, it's not whatever. I mean, there's obviously a lot of money to be made if you do it right and you can scale enough. But it makes life easier once you get that passive income coming. So.
That makes a lot of sense. Now back for helping out the audience of beginners though. How often do you, as real estate investors, how often do you guys get hounded by cold callers regarding your buildings? You know, asking you to sell or something like that. How often, like in a week, like how many calls would you get?
I own a house in Plano, Texas, which is a little suburb of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And my younger brother lives in it, but it's in my name. Long story. But I probably get at least 4 a week about wanting to see if I want to sell that house. And I had a house in Fort Worth that I've sold probably over 7 years ago that I still get letters asking if I want to sell it. I couldn't believe it. Not only from them or asking me to refinance. I get cold calls and letters at least 3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah. And a lot of it's email right now. A lot of it you're just getting, you're getting hit every day, you know, literally with emails coming in and stuff like that. And, it's good because, you never know what they have. And, we talk to a lot of different people, and you never know what kind of a connection is going to come out of what conversation you're going to have. So, don't always just dismiss that stuff right away, because you can flip the script, on these folks when they're calling you and just say, well, you know what, I'm not a seller right now, but what do you got? I'm a buyer. And, boom, now all of a sudden it might open up something you didn't even know about. And a lot of times in situations like that, wholesalers, I'm not a big fan, I'll be honest. And the reason is they end up complicating the deal. And we try to deal with them directly and just basically say, look, we're not going to try to go around you. We'll sign a thing that says we guarantee your fee, this, that, but we need to be direct to the seller, and we need to, we need to have the financials. They're always like proof of funds. Yeah, it's a $40 million project. Yeah, I'll just run to the bank and, get a printout on my bank statement. I got.
What have I got on me here? Let me see.
Exactly. Yeah, right. It's like, the wholesalers that are out there, think about that for a minute. I can't make an educated decision about making an offer on this property without the financials, the current financials of what's going on. Because, you really got to scour through that stuff. And people say, oh, we're 96% occupied. Well, you might have a physical occupancy of 96%. What's your economic, especially right now? What's the economic occupancy? Is it 60%? So those are things you gotta look at. But, wholesalers are great. They bring us a lot of stuff. We have a lot of deals through wholesalers, and some of them, sometimes it works out. And, sometimes you got to understand, you chase a lot of dogs in this business, and you go through, you invest a lot of time in deals that you never close on. And sometimes you get to the point it's under contract, and you're out money. There's money to go visit these properties. There's money for third-party reports. There's money for EMD. If you're not careful, it goes hard, and you're out that money. So there's a lot of little caveats you need to learn about, going into this, because it's real easy to lose a bunch of money really quick. And, you got to kiss a lot of frogs, man. That's just it. You got to go out and kiss a lot of frogs and see what you can dig up on there. And don't be afraid to make some crazy offers, seriously. A guy once told me, if if you're not embarrassed by what you're offering for this, you're paying too much. You know?
Yeah, it's too much. That's too
It's a
much.
starting point, right? It's a starting point. So, you know, there you go.
Yeah, the right person on the right day.
Yeah, if I can add to that, you just have to be careful, you know, in my opinion, that if you're sending in a lowball offer, you know, as opposed to saying, this is my offer, this is my offer, that's it, maybe going down the road of, I'm kind of coming in around a 1.5 number and you're asking 2, is this something that we can work on, or is this too far off, as opposed to saying 1.5, that's my final offer, take it or leave it, you know, at least it maybe be able to start a dialogue with them to say, no, they won't take that, but they may take 1.7, or, you know, it's a good way to, it's not like TV, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Demonstrate a certain amount of flexibility seems to be the key, you know, like obviously don't, well, one thing I remember, I became an entrepreneur pretty early in my life. And one thing I learned very quickly to never, ever do is, like, if you're selling something, you know, it's like, oh, I'm thinking 15, 20 bucks. It's like, well, you just said 15. So you, like, never, ever, ever give a range like that. It's really, really important, but you should still have some flexibility. But back to being pestered all the time as an owner. What about text messages, SMS text messages? How often do you get hounded via text message to sell your buildings?
I don't get that very often.
Yeah, and it's increasing. It just depends. You eventually end up on somebody's list, and then, you know, they sell that list and whatever. You know, there's all kinds of, you know, there's a legal way to do it, and there's a way to not do it legally.
Right, but what's the thing that most people who cold contact you do or don't do that gives them a better chance of you doing business with them? What are some things that make somebody stand out when they're cold contacting you?
I would say for me it would be knowing that they're keeping the deal. Like, if it were, I thought about this the other day when I got my other postcard that's all, you know, that looks like it's handwritten, but it's really done by a computer type thing. Like, if I imagine that there's a lot of people, I always thought about this. I imagine there's a lot of people out there that would be apt to selling their place if they knew that you were keeping it for either your portfolio or you were keeping it for yourself, you know, like, as opposed to doing the typical wholesaler where they're just a middleman and going through. Like, for me, I've done that, and I live in a smaller town outside of Fort Worth, and I've gone around to people and say, listen, I'm keeping this for myself. And I've talked to these people, and they're like, well, we've had a couple other offers. And I was like, this is the offer I can give you. This is the best offer I can do, but I'm keeping it for myself and keeping it in my own portfolio. They're like, okay. And so they ended up selling it to me. So that's helped. That I can see that being that way, as opposed to just being like running cattle through.
Right,
you know?
right. Do you think that's because the owners, you know, they have some sort of loyalty to their tenants, and they say, it's like, okay, if I give it to a wholesaler, then who knows who's actually going to be taking care of my tenants, even though they're not mine anymore. Do you think that's what's going through people's heads, and that's why they prefer it? Or what exactly do you think the allure is of saying, hey, I'm buying this property, like, I want to buy this property, and I intend on taking care of it and, you know, improving it, and I'm in for the long haul. What do you think makes the seller feel better if they know you're going to hold it, do you think?
Daryl can speak to it, but personally for me, I would think that they probably initially purchased it because they were going to do the same thing. And so there may be some times like COVID or some other things that have come up to where they just couldn't manage it was unmanageable for them personally, for whatever reason that may be. And so if they know that they're selling it to somebody that used to be in their shoes, and they remember the feeling that they had when they first purchased it, and they're going to do everything that they can, you know, it may be something that they may be more apt to sell to you to, as opposed to somebody that's like, hey, I'm going to pick it up. I'm more institutional based, as opposed to, I think there's a level of personal respect there.
So like idiosyncrasy about the building as well, then, I imagine.
Sure, most definitely.
Yeah.
With the mom and pops especially, you know, because that's been their life for the last 20, 30 years. You know, maybe it's a small 20, 24 unit building, or maybe it's even a little bit bigger, but that's been their life. That's their baby. You know, I mean, maybe they don't own a ton of property. Maybe they just own that one property, and that has been their lifeblood. That's what fed their family for 30 years, you know, all that. Kind of circling back though real quick, you were asking about, you know, one thing I hate is just the pitch right off the get-go when somebody sends me something, you know. Take some time to introduce yourself, you know, and just basically say, hey, I'm in this multifamily world. This is what I do. You know, if you ever have a need or something, go ahead and, you know, give me a shout or whatever. Here's my contact. And, you know, if you'll let me know what markets you're looking at or whatever, I can look specifically for you in those areas. But the guy once told me, you know, you never ask for a sale, you know, you never ask for money. You know, and if you don't know, you know, if you're not interested, if you know anybody else that might be interested, I'd appreciate if you, you know, forward my information to them. So, you know, the hard sell coming out, you know, like the furniture salesman, when you walk in a furniture store and they just like, they're on you like, you know, flies. It's like, that's just a big turnoff to me personally. I would rather, okay, maybe it is a matter of having a couple of calls or texts or emails back and forth to kind of get to know one another. And ultimately, I think what the goal of a person, at least our goal, like when we're reaching out to people, it's to get somebody on the phone. You know, email, texting, all that is great, very impersonal. And I don't know about you, but in the construction industry, it's interesting. I've seen it change over the years. You know, before all the cell phone, all this technology and stuff, people were much different. They treated people differently on job sites, you know, because you got to tell that person right to their face. You know, you're going to call somebody or whatever, you know, and you got to do it to their face. Well, you know, if you're a keyboard jockey, it's real simple. You know, you can do all you want, you know, you're 150 miles away. So, you know, it's very impersonal. So you got to try to make it personal. And, you know, I would just say, just give yourself an introduction, say what you do, and say, you know, if you have any need for this in the future or right now, you know, I'd be happy to work with you, jump on a phone call. You know, we can talk about what your buying criteria is, what areas you're looking for. I get a lot of deals sent to me, and, you know, might be something we can work together on. Just leave it at that and just see if you get a response back. I get guys, they'll send me stuff on LinkedIn and stuff all the time. And then like 2 days later, I haven't heard anything from you. You know, it's like, well, I guess it's because, you know, I'm not interested in what you're selling. So if I was, I would respond to you, you know, but I've had this, you know, 2 or 3 guys specifically, it's like every 2 days. So I haven't heard from you, you know, I mean, they just keep popping this and it's like, yeah.
Yeah,
you're out. You know, I'm not going to deal with somebody like I don't like the high pressure. I don't think most people like it. It's like the window salesman coming into your house. I had people when I was in the remodeling industry tell me, I thought I was going to have to get my gun to get this guy to leave my house. He would not leave my house because they're trained. If they leave the house without a signed contract, guess what? You're not getting the deal. You know, so they're real high pressure, high tactics. That doesn't work in this industry. I think. I mean, I'm all for people being aggressive and, you know, people for really trying to promote themselves. But at the same time, you know, that's the one commodity we, you know, can't buy any more of is our time. So everybody values their time for what it is. And everybody's busy. You know, right now, whether you're doing deals, whether you're, you know, looking at deals, wherever you're at in that spectrum, wherever you're at in the starting point, or, you know, you got some stuff going, everybody's busy. So I'll be mindful of people's time.
Okay, so when you're getting those emails, though, for example, like some of them will look more what I'll call institutional than others. Okay, like you know Tim's acquisition head of acquisitions, Nick, and one of the things that I think has been effective for him is that his emails are extremely informal. They're very, very casual. They don't have a big banner at the top saying whatever Inc. And, you know, like this is today's date and here's our team, you know, all that kind of stuff. They tend to be more institutional, as I'm saying. How do you guys react as buyers and sellers? Like when you have one that's informal like Nick's and one that's ultra formal, it looks like it's coming from some trust company or something like that. What sort of impressions do you get when you see those kinds of things as a potential seller?
Me personally, I mean, it's all about the deal. You know, it's not as important to me how that comes across. It's all about whether or not it makes sense. And if you're going to be a wholesaler and you're going to put all this caveat, I want proof of funds, you know, you go right to the circular file. I'm not even going to chase that rabbit. You know, it's like, oh, you send out this BS OM that has, you know, no information. I can't make even a preliminary decision on it. You know, there's no address. I can't look at it. It's like, you have to understand, you know, people analyze, we look at a lot of deals. I mean, all the time we're looking at different stuff, and so other people. So you have to be able to give enough information where they can at least, you know, you want to at least be able to pique people's curiosity, where they can look at it and go, this looks like this might be something that's doable. And then, you know, you go from there. But to me, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's some stuff you get where stuff's all in caps and blood red, and I mean, whatever. I mean,
Emojis, fire.
Yeah, right. Stuff like that. It's like, you know, come on, man. You know, I mean, I do like the simpler stuff, like Nick sends out and other people send out. But you know, the thing about it is, as you know, excuse me, you got to build your brand too. If that's the wheelhouse you're in, you want to be a wholesaler, you want to do this, or if you're just doing it to get to point A to where you can build up enough money to, you know, get something going on your own, whatever, that's cool. But you're still building a brand. You know, just like our value add brand, you know, just like, you know, your brand. We want people to know who we are, and we want them to know and recognize that name. You know, so there's nothing wrong with putting some of that on there, but yeah, like if you know,
it's funny. The reason why I'm laughing is because you mentioned branding, and like, you know, I'm always wearing my funnelfixing.com hat, and when I went to that event in Tampa back in February of Tim's, I was wearing the hat the whole time, and the only reason was because I didn't have another hat with more appropriate branding. Basically, what I want to get across to everybody is that you should always be branding in some form. If you really have a problem with that, then it's like, then you should probably put somebody in front who has less of a problem with branding all the time. As a matter of fact, we were talking about legacy, and my body of work online is definitely more of my legacy. But some of the stuff I'm doing is super duper weird. Like I just got a fully digital deep fake AI of myself. So I can get an AI version of myself to say whatever I want, and I can get it to use my voice. I can get it to use somebody else's voice. And I was careful when I was doing the filming for the source footage for it, to be honest. There's a script that you have to read as source material, and I was very super careful to be honest in what I was saying. So this AI can imitate me telling the truth. So it's an absolutely terrifying thing, right? But I've got a workaround. It's this hat. Okay, because one of the things, as a digital security guy, I'm aware that, you know, somebody could use my digital AI if they got access to it, and they could do all sorts of scams. You know, they could go ahead to my parents and say, you know, hey, we're in trouble. You really need to send us some money, and it's my face. You know, it's a terrifying little thing, but you know, branding, it's a double-edged sword. It can have a fun thing. It's like, yeah, nobody's going to use that if it's got funnelfixing.com right on my head.
Right.
So, but there you go. So that was my little story. I loved Kevin's reaction. I saw, what? Yes, it's real. I can show you right after this interview too, because it's really something to behold. It should terrify people. But as I was mentioning, you know, we both met through Tim Brotz, and they're doing an unconventional type of syndication. Are you phasing in their syndication model, or do you have any spins of your own on the traditional model, or what?
We follow that model pretty well, and the reason is we've looked at the other models, and you know, this is the fairest way. And if you can get somebody that's used to a standard syndication to really look at the overall deal, you know, they're going to make far more money in this deal. And the bigger thing is their money is not at risk for the period of time, and that's one of the things that piques, you know, people that do traditional type syndications. That's what piques their interest, because they are not going to get their money back, if they get their money back, 3, 5, 7, 10 years down the road. They're just not going to get it. And you know, the other thing about it is that, you know, and Tim mentioned this, and we're the same way. You know, if you tell somebody you're going to pay a pref, you know, like we had a deal where we had somebody put up some EMD money for us on a deal, and it ended up going south, and we still paid that guy. We still paid him what his deal was, even though in a lot of situations when you're providing that transactional income, you know, or transactional money for deals like that, you understand it's a risk, but you know, this is a very small world we deal in. It's not as big as you think it is, and it's gotten even smaller with the internet. So if you don't do what you say you're going to do, you get a bad name real quick. And
Right.
so, you know, if it costs you 5 or 10 grand, well, that's what it costs. And, you know, you got to make sure you take care of your investors, because that's number one with us. You know, the investor comes first. We're going to make sure the investor gets what they need to get. If we promise them something, I mean, right now you got some weird stuff going on with the pandemic stuff, and a lot of people, they stop distributions and stuff while this stuff's shaking out. You know, there's things like that that happen, those black swan type events that you have no control over. And so you have to be able to pivot and be able to do stuff where, you know, you adjust, but that gets down to communication. You know, you really gotta stay, have great communication with your investors so that they understand what's going on. If they understand what's going on, they're generally good. They trusted you to invest that money with you, you know, and, you know, if you can explain what's going on there, it's normally good. But, you know, if you tell somebody I'm going to get you this, then you better damn well do everything that you can to make sure you get that. And that's one of our mantras. We don't eat until they do. I mean, we cover our costs on the construction side, but realistically, Kevin and I and all the deals we do, you know, we don't make a dime. We don't really make any money until, you know, that cash out refi. And that's where we start getting our money, is at that point there. But, you know, the investors and the asset, those are the two most important. And in that order, I believe, is, you know, your investor and your assets. You have to make sure you do everything you can to protect them.
Right. And I bring it up because my favorite part about Tim's syndication method is that you're actually on, you know, the LLC has the title, actually owns the property, but, you know, you're actually on the list of owners of the LLC, as opposed to a traditional syndication where, you know, it goes through a bank. Did you know that sometimes banks give people a bad deal? Isn't that weird?
Yeah, so shocker.
And so I feel much better actually being on the list of owners of the LLC, because, you know, your legal recourse against your partners if they lie, cheat, or steal, it's the most obvious thing in the world. You don't have to wonder, well, what is this going to look like? And I really like that. But part of real estate investment is to spot damage and deduce its cause like a detective, though. Would you agree with that, Daryl?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't just have to be in the building. You know, there's damage in the property management that you can find too. So the buildings themselves, yeah, that's one of the things that Kevin and I do, and we partner up with people. And we partner with people. We basically handle the work side of the equation. We partner with people that bring money to the equation. We do a really deep due diligence when we go out and physically walk these properties. You know, it's not something we're there for a day and, you know, oh, okay, you know, do our little Facebook Live, you know, whatever. Right. We're there 3, 4, 5 days. And I mean, we go through every unit, and, you know, we're looking for stuff, clues, you know, if there's mold in this corner, you know, what's going on with the foundation, I mean, there's so many different areas you can look at. And you're right, you got to be a little bit of a detective. But one of the keys that we do, one of the reasons we stay there a couple of days, is you want to make friends with the property manager and the maintenance guy that's on site. And a lot of times Kevin and I will take them out to lunch, we'll take them out to dinner, and we pour a couple margaritas in them, and all of a sudden they start talking like that. You know, we take all the bodies are buried, you know, and that's the main thing. You want to let them know you're generally interested in the property. You know, that you're going to try to do this, and they'll start to give you some information that, you know, is very hard to come by. It would take a lot more time and due diligence to try to dig it up. And most people, doesn't happen. It gets glossed over, and then all of a sudden they buy this thing, and then it turns out it's like, holy crap, you know, this is what's going on. So you got to be a people person in this industry. You got to be able to talk to people, and so when you're doing that due diligence walk and stuff like that, we don't just talk with people on site. We deal with building officials. We deal with the economic development. We deal with the Chamber of Commerce, tax assessor. You know, you name it. When we spend some time, we want to let them know who we are, what we're planning to do, what they can do to help us. That's the big thing. We want everybody on our side. And most of the properties we look at, the city's ready. You know, police, post office, you know, like the one we're looking at, they have mailboxes that are inside the actual unit, like the common areas of the unit, instead of being like an outdoor box. Well, Kevin went down and talked to the postmaster and says, hey, you know, what would be easier? Will you guys buy the box? We'll install them. Yeah, we'd love that. You know, so now the guy just pulls up and he just, you know, shoves the stuff that's all in one location. And it makes it safer for the tenants too, because, you know, you can put a camera on that stuff, and, you know, with packages and stuff, that's things becoming more and more challenging in apartments is package delivery. And so Amazon's got some like delivery boxes, UPS has got some, you know, some people have them just go to the leasing office. It really just depends. But, you know, porch pirates aren't just in homes, you know, and they're in apartments. And when people walk by and they see a package there, you know, it's something you need to kind of look at to kind of address it. So,
So as a multifamily owner, I know that I've seen you post a lot of praise for veterans. What are some things that apartment owners, building owners can do for veterans that's appropriate? Because I find that like those of us who haven't served, we have troubles figuring out where we're welcome to help veterans, where we're welcome to, you know, be there for veterans emotionally and otherwise, and all that kind of thing. What do you think is a good thing that people can do to help veterans out as a landlord?
I'm not really sure there's anything with the units themselves you can do. I mean, you can talk with people in the city, different veterans administrations, things like that, to where, you know, you might be able to offer, you know, some assistance that way, or get them hooked up with a chapter like the DAV, or, you know, the VFW, or, you know, other organizations that, you know, help vets that are coming back. Because, you know, unfortunately, our military does a real good job of training people how to go over and blow things up and destroy stuff. But when people come back from that, they don't do as good of a job kind of deprogramming people and trying to get them to come into back to integrate into regular society. You know, even running that like on the submarine, we'd be out 3, 4, 5 months. You deal with, you talk to people differently, you know, because you're not around normal people. And you come back, and so you're having dinner with grandma, and it's, you know, you got to watch what you're saying. So anyways, there needs to be like a debriefing period for them. But I would say, I mean, if they do, I mean, if you want to offer some kind of a discount to them for their service, that's something that would be awesome. I'm sure that they would appreciate it if it's something that you can do. You know, and that doesn't maybe just go for the military guys, it goes for our first responder folks too. You know, those guys are out there fighting a good fight every day. You know, there might be some bad apples out there, but I believe that most people are honest, fair, and trustworthy. And in our police, I believe that they're mainly all good guys. Yeah, there's always a few bad apples. When you put a group of people together collectively, there's always going to be a bad apple or two. And you can't judge the group as a whole based on the actions of a few. You know, it's just that. So I don't know anything else that you really do, you know, as far as that goes, other than maybe offering some kind of a discount rate for a veteran or first responder, or possibly, you know, just hooking them up with services that might be in that area. I would say one thing is just kind of be on alert, you know, your property management, you know, be on alert, because these guys can go on tilt pretty quick, you know, and it's not they don't mean to or whatever, but they can go on tilt. And, you know, so just kind of, you know, pay attention to what's going on. And most good property managers do. When you talk to them, even on big units, they know the tenants, they know the people, they know a lot more about them than what they think they know. You know, it's amazing. So.
Yeah. So I bring that up. You know, I'm trying to get a feel for who you guys are as people. And one of the things is, like, you know, I keep on seeing you mention veterans and all that kind of stuff. And I know that you're a real estate developer, as you said. You know, like you used to have 320 employees, right? But you don't hit me as a decadent man. You don't hit me as the kind of American who has like an outdoor hot tub installed in his stretched Hummer with flames down the sides and bald eagles and huge flags flapping.
He doesn't see my garage, has he, Kevin? So.
Oh my gosh! I'm just kidding. No, he's definitely not that type of guy. We are definitely not those type of people.
Yeah, what you see is what you get with Kevin and I. And that's one thing about this industry. You have to be transparent with people. People, they have that bullshit meter. They can sniff that out really quick when they start talking to people about who's genuine, who's not. And, you know, it's just one of those things. And what purpose does it really serve? I mean, there's scammers out there, whatever. You know, it is what it is. But if you're in this for the long haul, like I said earlier, it's a small world. It's a lot smaller world than you think. You know, you think, oh, the United States is this big country, or Canada is this big country. Internet makes the world very small. And it doesn't take long for all of a sudden now you got a bad reputation. And I mean, that's what you really have in this industry. You know, you have what your reputation is. So being open and honest and transparent, you know, with people, that's what we like to say. You know, I never trust anybody that says, trust me, I'm honest. You know, that's the first indicator. But, you know, we just like to be, you know, as transparent as we can. We use different platforms and stuff for our investors, that they can actually take a look at what's going on in the jobs as we're repositioning this. Communication is absolutely key. And doing that, you know, if you're one of your investors or, you know, any of your partners, you know, if they're emailing you, calling you, whatever, I mean, if you can't take it that minute because you obviously got something else going on, that's fine, but you got to make sure you stay on top of that stuff, because when people start to go radio silent, that's when trouble starts. People are wondering, why is this guy not calling me back?
Yeah.
Especially if they have an issue with something that's going on. So sometimes they're having conversations, you know, I mean, that's life. Sometimes life happens and, you know, different things happen and, you know, whatever, but clamming up and not saying anything, or just, like I said, going radio silent, it's not going to help anybody. And it's not going to definitely help to resolve the issue, whatever it might be, and move forward and get over it, you know.
People go out of real estate in the real estate investment business, as far as I know, because either A, they're over leveraged in a downturn, B, they procrastinate on getting deal flow, or C, they got in without anybody experienced in commercial real estate and thought it was like a vending machine. You know, you just put the money in and then more money comes out the bottom each month, and they got a rude awakening. So for the people watching who want to get into real estate and want to know, and I get that some people disappear quietly and others don't, but can you think of other common mistakes to watch out for if you're a newcomer to multifamily investment?
Well, first of all, you got to buy it right. You got to understand how to underwrite a deal. You got to understand the numbers. If you don't understand what your numbers are, you're just setting yourself up for failure. So, you know, that's why it's important to go to somebody like Tim's event or one of these guys' events, or, you know, you can get it out of a book too. There's a ton of stuff online, but you know, it's good to be able to talk to people at those types of things. But you really have to understand what the numbers are. You have to understand what the market is. You know, that's where people go wrong, first of all. Or the second place is they get some kind of lending in place. It's predatory, and maybe they get a bridge loan or they get some hard money loan. We're dealing with one here in Detroit right now. It's been in the courts. The bank took the property back, I don't know, back in February. You know, and they've been battling in court with this owner, you know, for a long period of time. But that's the other thing you have to understand about commercial loans. The bank doesn't have to have a reason. They can call the note whenever they want to call the note. You know, it's not like a mortgage where you have to default on it or something, and you know, they're keeping track of you financially. So if they see that you aren't hitting those projections that you said you were going to hit, you aren't hitting your occupancy the way you said you were going to do it, you're overspending because you underestimated on your construction or your rehab budget, and they can see that there's not something there, they're going to call a note, and they can do it. And that's what's happened here. And fortunately for these guys that own it, you know, they're in a very sympathetic county here in Wayne County in Michigan,
right.
And the courts are very sympathetic, and so it's going to take quite a bit for the judge to really pull that property from you. But they're actually going to be in court tomorrow, 17th, and I'm sure the judge is going to make a decision at that point what's going to happen, because this has been drug out for 6 months. Some of it's COVID related or whatever. So yeah, if you get a bad loan on the deal, or you know, you don't buy it right, and the one area where we see most people going, and you go to these seminars or whatever, and you learn how to do this, and they say, oh, you know, a light rehab is $3,000, and a moderate one's like maybe 7 to 10, and a heavy one's like 15. You know, you can't do that. I mean, it's okay to do it for your underwriting and just kind of get some numbers together. But you have to have some professionals come out there and walk that and develop hard numbers on that repositioning, because that's where most people go wrong, and they run out of money, and then they have to figure out a way, or they try to force a deal and they try to come in underfunded right from the get-go. You know, they don't have enough to do it, and they aren't going to see the rent increases that they're projecting. They're not going to see that because they didn't bring enough money to the table to begin with, you know. And so, yeah, I'd say the buy is the big thing. You know, you got to buy it right. You got to make sure it's funded right. And then on the fixed part of it, you know, you got to make sure you're dealing with people that understand what's going on and can do some solid numbers for you and get you some good, accurate information.
I would say also a couple other things would be the asset class that you're buying in. There's a lot of people, and I've been guilty of it, where they'll see D-class properties in D-class areas that are literally like $10,000 a unit, and they think that, you know, that they can go in there and do the rehab on it and then everything is going to be just fine. But nothing personal against anybody, but the clientele that you're going to have in there is going to be a management nightmare. So they're thinking that the rents are going to be the rents and they're going to pay every single month. But by the time, from the management perspective, you're going to spend more time and more money on management than you will than the income that's coming in. So that, I would say, is definitely something that I've seen a lot of properties for sale in certain areas. Memphis is one of them. Memphis has a ton of deals that come up, but the areas that they're for sale, they were hoping that like FedEx was going to come in and make everything better, and it didn't. And the other area is also the A-class areas. You have A-class properties that, when times are good, before COVID, for example, the economy was great. Things where people were making money and they were spending money. And so when there's a economic decline, or when there's a COVID or some sort of issue that comes up, A-class people are going to move to B-class properties. So that leaves the A-class properties not only very expensive on the note, but you're not going to have people that can afford to live in there. So people will lose their ass on that, because there's no way to cover the note, because nobody could afford the rents. So you either got to reduce the rents and turn it into a B-plus property, or just take the hit and try and sell it. So I would say the asset class is very important as well.
And unit mix too. Even when you're looking at these properties, unit mix. If you got a ton of studios, man, you got to look at the area you're in. Studios, 1 bedrooms, they can turn more often, and turning units, man, that costs money. If you got 2 and 3 bedroom units, there's more to them, but tend to get a more stable tenant because it's a family, it's not a single person. 1 bedrooms, you get new couples, young couples and stuff. The turns are still more frequent on 1s and studios than 2s or 3s, though, generally speaking. So, if you get something that's real lopsided, like you got a 100-unit building and 50 of them are studios and 25 are, 1 bedrooms, and you got 20 that are, 25 that are, 2s. Having a better balance on a mix is something that you want to look at as well.
Okay, so you want basically 2/3 of them to not be studios, is what you're saying.
Well, it depends on the market. If you're like in a big college town or something like that, sometimes studios work. Or if you're in like an urban area, New York or something like that, and that's one area we say.
You're in the internet world, so you would know. Generally, folks that are just wanting to start businesses and things like that. Studios, people are cool with that. People will handle a 1 bedroom or a studio, and they just need killer internet access and Ubers. You know what I mean? So it all depends on the area.
Depends on the area, right? Exactly. If you've got like a big, downtown booming area, like there's parts of Detroit that are great. There's parts that are absolutely horrific. It's like every big urban city. But if you're in one of those areas where it's booming and the kids all want to live there, man, those lofts, those studios, they can actually do real well. And so, again, it's about knowing your market,
and knowing the area, just knowing your area, that you're investing in. Really take the opportunity, even if you have an opportunity, if you're going to look at investing in an area, maybe spend a couple days in that area, and go to the restaurants and hang out and go to the bar scene, and just kind of get to know that area a little bit. That will kind of give you a good vibe on what's happening. There's websites out there, Area Vibe, all these other ways that you can look at the demographics, the school districts, things like that, which are real important. But if you're going to invest millions of dollars in an area, a couple days on a flight or a road trip is not going to hurt anything to kind of check out the area and see what people think and go from there.
Yeah, right. Or at least you should have somebody on the team who, like that's something that, they live for that sort of thing,
Totally.
if you really, really hate it. But I appreciate those answers because I want people to have realistic expectations, at least if they've got the self-awareness, right? Like, especially last year, I don't know if you know this, there were a bunch of real estate coaches that got shut down by the SEC. The company I was working for, we never had any issues with that because my boss at the last real estate company, he was actually doing the flips on top of the coaching. But the reason why the SEC shut them down is because they were saying that there's no real likelihood of becoming successful at real estate investment. What do you guys say about that? Let's get Kevin to start, if you don't mind.
I would say that there is some truth to that. There's a lot of, I would expect that there's a lot of quote gurus out there that have never done a deal and everything works on paper. But everything is not all about working on paper. You know, it actually there actually is processes and systems and things that need to be put in place. Like in my background, we've helped develop managerial systems and maintenance systems for the properties that we did work on. So, you know, there's a process and a procedure, and it's one thing to be able to do it on paper, but it's another thing to actually execute it. So I would say that is not true, because it depends on how much value you put into the education portion of it. Yes, you need to learn every single thing you need to do, but the only way that I learn is by actually doing it. So I would not necessarily start out with a 300-400 unit property. Maybe try and do a fourplex if you're you know, dipping your feet in the water, or maybe even a 5 and above is considered 5 properties, 5 units and above is considered a commercial loan. So maybe get 5 or 10 units, you know, and then just kind of dive into it that way. You have less risk because you have less to lose. You know, if you get into the 300-400 unit properties, you know, you lose big. So I would disagree. I think everybody could be successful at it. I really do. It's just a matter of getting the right people in the right spot and being able to execute your plan, you know, and being able to humble enough to ask for help if you need it, and be able to give up equity if you need that help. You know, one of the things you were talking about earlier that I didn't get a chance to mention was, you know, the trust factor. You know, definitely trust is a big deal, but there's a saying that's trust but verify. Always verify, you know, that you know, they said that everything is done. You know, I trust that you did it. You know, Carlos, you always do good for me, but I'm still going to check you. You know, like, I'm still going to make sure that it's done. So I disagree. I think I think everybody has the potential, you know, to be successful in real estate, but you really have to harness what your goals are. You really have to harness what your goals are. And that's what Daryl and I have done. We you know, we have a buy criteria. We have certain things that we'll do, but definitely start small and go big. I'm all about going big, you know, but definitely start out, you know, in a comfort zone, and then move from there, in my opinion.
And Daryl, what do you think? Do you think there's no real likelihood of becoming successful at real estate? Because your partner says that that's hooky.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. So some of it is you get what you pay for, and you gotta know the right questions to ask before you sign up for one of these programs. And I learned this. I got lessoned in this by some of the programs that I attended before I went to Tim's. So the first thing I asked was, is there an upsell here? And when I went there, they said no. And that was true at the time. I know he's north in some other stuff that he does, some coaching stuff, some other things. But when I asked him that, that's what I wanted, because I wanted to know, are you going to lay out the whole program? Because a lot of these other programs, they dribble a little bit of real estate in there, and it's a bunch of touchy feel good, you know, hoorah, ha. And then it's like, well, yeah, but we got this coaching program for this, if you know, don't quite feel comfortable moving forward. So they're making their money on the upsell, you know, as far as that goes. The second question I asked is, the guy that's actually developed this or came up with this, is he the guy teaching it, or is she the person teaching this, or are they the presenter or one of the presenters? Because I went to an Armando thing a long time ago, total scam. You know, a situation where, you know, it was all marketed, it was this, that. It was just upsell, 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 upsell. And that being said, I mean, you could have taken the information you learned there and you could have done some stuff with it, but the stuff you were given was very vague, and you could tell it was designed to do that. Here's the biggest thing I tell people about doing any of these. You know, look at them, ask those kind of questions. You have to make an investment in yourself. You know, Tim's program, it's not the cheapest one out there. It's worth every cent of it, though, in my opinion. You you know, some of the other ones I wouldn't say that about. I'm not going to mention your names, but I wouldn't say that about some other ones. But you have to understand when you go into this, you have to have something you're bringing to the table. You have to have a piece of the pie, like I like to say. This multifamily investing is like going to a picnic or a potluck or whatever you want to call it. And I have to have something to bring. Now, if I have nothing to bring, if I don't have money to bring to the deal, if I don't have a balance sheet to bring to the deal, if I don't have property management experience, if I don't have the construction management experience, if I'm not willing to be the boots on the ground guy and run all around all over checking out different deals, whatever, you got to figure out what your piece of the pie is there. Maybe you have a great network of really wealthy friends, and that's what you're bringing to the table. You're an investor relation person. You got to figure out what that piece is, because if you come to the table and you don't have a piece, you're not going to get there, because there's no value in partnering with somebody like that. You know, that's where the mentorships come in. Then you need to buy into a mentorship where you can learn an aspect of that or do something. But if you don't have anything to bring to the table, people with the networking, they're all very cordial and they'll talk to you, but there's really no partnership opportunity if you don't know what your lane is. And you got to know where you're at and understand, I'm going to have to partner with other people that handle this aspect of it. I got to build that team, build that relationship with these folks. And ours is always changing. We do deals with different people. Like, you know, this one down in Rockport is with one group. This one up in Illinois, it's with a different group, you know. That's what Kevin and I do. You know, we handle the work side of stuff, and we partner with people that can bring capital, that can bring balance sheets, that can do things like that. You handle the money side, we'll get it done. And, you know, it's things like that. And so that's what I think the big thing is. I think, like Kevin, I think anybody can really do it. It's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of nights we're up till 12, 1, 2 in the morning. I mean, Friday night, we were on a call with a guy in California. So I'm Eastern time zone, you know. He's out on the West Coast. I mean, I think that phone call went in at 1 o'clock in the morning, you know. And it's nuts, you know, and that's the way those things are. And, you know, I mean, it's just, I tell people all the time, I think I'm joking, but my phone is on all the time, you know. I mean, I may not answer it always like after midnight or something like that, but my phone's always on because, you know, we're always looking to do deals with people, and I just never know what's going to come on up. And so this is what we do. You know, this is exactly what we do. So you have to make yourself available too.
And we really love it, you know, like we really, really love real estate. I think real estate for me, the best way I describe it to my girls, I got 2 girls, one's 10 and one's 12, and I'm trying to get them to understand the value of money and stuff like that. And one of the things I always tell them is that you really make money on stuff that you love to do, you know, and for me personally, the real estate is it's the lottery ticket that I have a say-so in, you know, for me, because I know that there's so much value in real estate and being able to scale it. And, you know, and we're not looking for like the Hummers or the planes or the watches or anything like that. We're looking for the stability and the legacy to be able to live our lives the way that we want to. You know, that's really what it all boils down to. And where the girls, or my girls and our kids and our family never have to worry, and they can always dream big, you know, and not have money as a constraint, you know. But we really love what we do. You know, we really love meeting new people. We love traveling to new assets. We love turning stuff that looks terrible into something amazing. And then we love seeing the machine work, you know, and so that's really something that, that I would say is a big thing for us, is that we really love this. And so I thought I'd just.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. It's because I remember when I was around 20 is the first time I heard somebody say, do what you love and the money will follow.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I know you guys, especially Daryl, because I've known him longer. I know you guys love America, and I bet you love the American dream as much as I do. But a lot of people say the American dream is dead. And real estate is one of the reasons why I say that's not true. But what do you guys think? You know, like real estate and non-real estate. Do you think the American dream is still alive and kicking?
For those people that haven't been outside the country and haven't seen what people in the rest of the world look like, you can't really gain the appreciation for this country, and even Canada, you know, for that matter, because our social economics are very similar and stuff like that. People do not understand. You hit the freaking lottery when you were born in America, man. You absolutely hit the lottery. You have so much opportunity to basically go and do, and you know what, if you fail, so what? Get back up and keep fighting. You fail in other countries, they might throw your butt in jail forever. You know, I mean, it's insane. So when you don't know how the rest of the world operates, and this is all you've ever known, that's kind of the rub we have as Americans, is we feel like we're entitled, and they're right. There's generations that feel like they're entitled. You know, like this is because they haven't seen what's out there. They don't see how the rest of the world lives, and they don't see this opportunity. So when people say, "Oh, I can't do that," you know, Henry Ford said, "Yeah, you're right," because you said you can't, not because the opportunity isn't there. The opportunity is there to go and do. I told you about my parents, a bus driver and a truck driver, you know, and they, with the limited knowledge they had and the limited money that they had, they were able to build that up. Where else in America, I mean, where else in the world can you do that? We had friends that moved over here from Germany that they worked for the Bosch Corporation, and they were here for a period of time, and they had to leave and go back. They were devastated. They owned a beautiful home on like 15 acres that backed up to this wonderful park. They said, "We can never do this in Germany. We would never be able to buy something like this in Germany." You know? So I don't know. It's all about people taking action. And that's where people fail the most, is they don't take the action on it. So they get this information from this course and they don't act upon it. They don't do something about it every day. You know, and it can be something little. You know, you don't have to take, I mean, it's better if you take massive action. But if you're taking action, you're working toward that thing every day, you know, you're going to get closer and closer and closer. It's like I was telling Kevin, man, this past year, man, we've been pushing this boulder up this freaking mountain, you know. Well, I see the mountaintop. I've seen the mountaintop from day one, but I see the mountaintop. It's much closer. And once it goes over, then, hey, you know, everyone thinks, oh, it's all downhill. No, because I want a short valley. And I want to start pushing that thing up the next mountain. You know, that's how you do this. And it's a situation where you've got to work at it every day. You know, you've got to be passionate about it. You've got to believe in that. You've got to educate yourself. You've got to surround yourself with people like that, because I'm telling you what, this world is full of people that want to knock the knees out of the giant and make the midget look taller. There are so many naysayers out here that will just try to beat you down and tell you, oh, you can't do it. What makes you think you can do that? Are you crazy? You're talking that kind of a pipe dream with that kind of money? Guess what? It's for real. It's for real. But you got to put in the work. You got to get the education. You got to surround yourself with the right people. And those naysayers, I like to say, you know, I appreciate your opinion, man, but I do what I do. That's it. Just straight up, I do what I do. You know, and you know, that's it. I don't have time for that. You know, there's so much negativity in the world right now. You know, it's just like, I don't have time for that. There's too many things going on, too many things to do, and people to help and stuff like that. There's so many avenues there. So yes, you have to take action. You've got to follow through on a plan, and you know, you've got to work at it every day. If you got a W-2 job, then guess what, man? You're working at it from 6 to midnight, 6 to 1 in the morning, whatever it is. You know, you've got to work on this every single day. That's how you get there. So.
Yeah, and so you were talking about, you know, like basically once you get to one achievement, you're looking for the next one. You get to the top of one mountain, get to the top of the next one. And so one question about that, as far as the mechanics of real estate deals, again, for people who are just new to this, what's easier to find? Because I know that usually these are the two things that I hear people saying. It's like, oh, I just need one more great deal, or they'll say, oh, I just need one more great investor. Which one's easier to find, a great deal or a great investor?
Oh, that's a good question. I think a lot of it has to do with the deal. Like I said, this one I ran into, it's a smoking deal. I mean, it's a smoking deal. I'm trying to convince investors that, you know, this is an area that's worth investing in is challenging because, like I said, they listen to all these people and, you know, about demographics, this, that, and everything else. So it's kind of like a chicken and the egg thing, I think, kind of question you're asking. A guy once told me, you know, bad deals chase money and money chases good deals, you know. It's just one of those things. So the money's out there. There's amazing number of people out there that have money that are willing to invest. They want to put their money into play. They want to get involved in something like this. And they don't have the time or the wherewithal, or they just don't want to do that. You know, they just want to put their money in and be part of something, and that's awesome. So it's kind of a combination. It's hard to separate. I mean, I think that there's times where, yes, it's harder finding the money for the deal. Right now, depending on how you're buying, if you're buying direct to seller, through a wholesaler, through a broker, whatever, again, you got to kiss a lot of frogs. So sometimes it is finding the right deal that meets your model.
My question for you is, have you ever met a real estate investor who wasn't interested in connecting with other potential investors with money to deploy?
I would say no. I think absolutely not. I think, you know, we were just talking about money and the deal go hand in hand, you know, and so if you find the right deal, you need to have the people that see it's the right deal, and the people with money choose which way that they want to go. I definitely think that the money is very important, and I don't see why I have not talked to any investor that has said anything about your question. You know, like everybody, to me personally, the money is the most important thing. I think we can find deals that will always make a return on their investment based on our criteria. Mm-hmm. But, you know, making sure that you have the money and the capital in place is huge to me.
And some of that's timing too. You know, it just depends on people where their investments are and what they're doing, and, you know, educating them. You know, you've got to educate people that they can self-direct their IRA, that they can pull money from that. You know, that there's other places that they can, you know, get a better return, or even the stock market, like you're saying right now. You know, one of the reasons I've always stayed out of it is just because there's too many big elephants that can sway a stock on any given day. Like, you know, Buffett, you know, these hedge funds, you know, they get on a talking head show or whatever, and they say, well, I had a talk with the CEO of company X, and
kapow! Yeah.
Yeah. So I sold half my stuff, right? Here,
yeah.
Stuff drops, it plummets, then they swoop back in at the end of the day, and they own millions of shares. They're making a nickel a share.
Yeah.
Who cares? I got 5 million shares at a nickel a share. Just by making that one comment on some talk show or some news program, they can manipulate the value of any company out there. And that's what's so beautiful about this, is that, you know, as an LP, you don't have as much say in the property, you know, as what's going on in the reposition. The managing members do. But, you know, when you're pitching these deals to different folks, you know, that's what they're buying. They're buying you. They're buying on they're buying on the deal too, in the returns. But, you know, they know from doing like regular syndications, there's a lot of times, because people charge all these fees. Year one, they don't see anything. Mm-hmm. You know, year two, they don't hit the projected returns that they were looking at in the pro forma and stuff, because, again, these fees. And so a lot of it is, you know, you got to educate people about how this is different. And that's a harder bridge to cross than, you know, than I think the actual money aspect of it. You know, we're talking to people every day about money. Money raising is a constant thing. And it's, you know, I love talking to people. I don't love raising money, you know, as far as I love talking to people about it and stuff, talking about our deals and things like that. But the money raising stuff is, you know, it's a difficult task, because you're asking people to take a leap of faith with you. And, you know, I don't know, sometimes it feels a little salesy, and that's not who I am. But we try to come across as being genuine. This is what we got, and this is how it looks.
I want to say thank you so much for being here today, guys. Before you go, though, what's the best reason to call Value Add Partners right now? Who is the ideal person that you can help today?
Well, I'm going to say this, our name says it all, man. We're value add. Everything we do, you know, whether it be the property management side, whether it's the asset itself, whether it's just a relationship that we build with people, that's what we do. We're value add. We bring that to everything that we do. And, you know, we've got the ability to operate nationwide, with the exception of a few states, just because the regulation just makes it too difficult to operate in there. And there's operators that are there that, you know, they figure out a way to make it work. They've been doing it their whole life, whatever, you know. But, you know, pretty much anywhere across the country, we're willing to go take a look at it and partner with people, whether it's you're bringing a deal and, you know, you're looking, because a lot of folks don't know that out there. That's a great way to get into this. If you bring us a deal, something that we can get closed on, there's value in that for us. There's equity available for that. There's money available for that, you know, and that's a great way for somebody to get involved in doing that. But yeah, we operate pretty much across the country. There's certain markets we like in that, but we're one-stop shopping, literally on the work side. We'll take it right from Once the deal's found, we'll go do all the due diligence on it. We'll go develop the construction budget of the repositioning plan, working with the GPs to decide how much we want to put into this. You know, what's a reasonable number, because you can you can overdo it, man. You can blow your budget. You can throw a whole ton of money into something that you're never going to get it out. So you got to find that balance. And then, you know, we can bring the property management if that's what we need to do, and do the asset management as well. So basically the whole work equation, we can handle that. And that's what we do. So
awesome.
Yeah, and just to add to that, the way that we have our business and have our model set up is that we do the work and we get equity in the deal as well when we partner with people, meaning that we're not necessarily a third-party company when people call us. We are actually your partner in this deal. So if it's not successful, then we're not successful. We don't make money unless the deal is successful. So our goal when we started this company was to be literally a trusted partner in this space, because as you may well know, and a lot of viewers may well know, is that when it comes to due diligence, construction, you know, you can, you know, lose your ass on that portion of it. You know, if you have the money, have the right deal, and then go about it wrong from the end on, from the asset management, property management, or construction phase, you can really start losing money, and the whole deal could go south. We understand that our partnership with other people is that they are trusting us, and we are also trusting them in moving forward as a partnership on this deal. So we don't make money until they do. And so it's not like if we stop working, or we don't have guys showing up, or we don't have people on the job, it's like we don't take their money and run because we didn't make any money. You know, like we haven't, you know, we have money in the construction side and that's it. So we're not like a traditional construction company or a third party, you know, we're partners. And so that's what we want people to convey. That's the most important thing that I feel people need to understand, is that we're partnering with you, and we are successful when you are successful.
Yes, it's a collaboration.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest takeaway that people need to have.
And we do syndications as well. I mean, we syndicate our own deals as well. That being said, we also come into other people's syndications, just like Kevin was saying. We come in for a certain percentage of equity, and, you know, and that being said, our costs are reduced a little bit because, you know, we're not looking to make money. We're not looking to make a big profit on the construction side of it. We're bringing our skills and talents into the deal for a chunk of equity. Yeah, we cover our overhead and that, you know, our travel or whatever, but, you know, that's it. We're not making a big.
We don't profit. We don't profit on the construction.
And so that's one of the ways that we work with different people on that. So.
Awesome. All right. So if you want to get in touch with Daryl or me or Kevin, then just go ahead and check out the link in the description, and I'll see you again next time.
All right, Dan. Thanks again, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much for having us.